You are not distracted. You are being routed, not by force, by design. Digital noise is not random, it is structured. It is engineered to keep your mind open, reactive, and permanently available. We have accepted a new state of being, a low-grade, persistent hum of digital static that underlies our quietest moments. It's a condition we've learned to live with, like the sound of traffic outside a city apartment or the flicker of a fluorescent light. We've adapted so completely that we rarely notice its presence, let alone question its cost. This adaptation is a silent concession, an unconscious agreement we've made with the systems around us. We believe we are resting, but we are merely idling, our minds kept in a state of low-power readiness, waiting for the next summons. This state of perpetual standby has become our baseline, the new silence. And the most dangerous part is how normal it feels. It feels as normal as a phantom vibration in a pocket, a sensation the body has learned to invent. It feels as normal as the reflexive glance at a dark screen every few minutes, an instinct now ingrained deeper than conscious thought. It feels as normal as the brief, sharp intake of breath when a device lights up unexpectedly, a microjolt of adrenaline in an otherwise calm environment. We have folded these tiny intrusions into the fabric of our lives, stitching them into our routines so seamlessly that they have become invisible. We no longer perceive them as interruptions, but as the natural rhythm of a modern day. This is not a failure of willpower. It is a triumph of design. The system is working exactly as intended, conditioning us to accept a state of constant, low-level alert as our default. Most people think the problem is volume. Too many notifications, too many emails, too many tabs, too many updates. We are told the solution is to manage this volume, to turn things off, to unsubscribe, to declare bankruptcy on our inboxes. We are sold apps and techniques to filter the noise, to build higher walls against the flood. The narrative is one of overload, of being overwhelmed by a sheer quantity of information. We picture ourselves as switchboard operators, frantically trying to plug and unplug cables as an impossible number of calls come in. So we focus on reducing the number of calls, believing that if we could just get the volume down to a manageable level, we would regain our focus, our peace, our cognitive sovereignty. We treat the symptom because the symptom is loud, obvious, and measurable. It gives us a tangible enemy to fight. But the deeper problem is not volume, it is potential. The problem is not the single notification that arrives, but the infinite number of notifications that arrive at any second. It is the quiet, ever-present knowledge that any moment of focus, any thread of deep thought, can be severed without warning. This is a tax on attention, levied not by the interruption itself, but by the anticipation of it. Our minds are forced to allocate a portion of their processing power, a cognitive overhead, to simply monitoring for the next intrusion. It's the difference between a loud noise and the feeling of walking through a dark room where a loud noise could happen at any moment. One is a momentary event, the other is a persistent state of anxiety. The true cost is the fragmentation of our attention before anything has even happened. It is the ghost in the machine, the silent background process that degrades our ability to ever be truly present. It begins with a flicker, a whisper of light, or a sound so familiar it has become part of our lives. Every ping carries a small promise, a promise of connection, information, or opportunity. It's the allure of the unknown, a lottery ticket for our attention. This is the calculus of the modern mind. the potential gain of checking versus the certain cost of interruption. This quiet anxiety is the fuel. The loop is brutally effective psychological engineering. Trigger, action, variable reward, investment. The uncertainty is not a flaw, it is the most important feature. But the deeper truth is that the open channel is a buffer against the discomfort of stillness. We are not simply staying connected, we are actively avoiding a confrontation with ourselves. The final decision is to close the door, to be here, now. That decision is a small death, the death of the infinite potential promised by the ping, and so we leave the door ajar and wait. This is how digital noise becomes mental noise. Noise is not information. Noise is unresolved possibility. The mind cannot rest inside possibility. It can only rest inside clarity. Clarity requires certainty. Certainty requires closure. But digital systems discourage closure. They reward scanning. They reward availability. They reward interruption. You are not failing at focus. You are living inside an architecture that monetizes interruption. We live in an age of fractured attention, a time where the ability to concentrate deeply on a single task feels less like a common skill and more like a superpower. We sense our focus slipping away, fragmented into 1,000 tiny pieces by the constant hum of the digital world. We feel the pull of the infinite scroll, the phantom buzz of a notification, the low-grade anxiety of an inbox that never sleeps. In response to this pervasive feeling, we are offered a familiar set of solutions. A chorus of voices from productivity gurus, self-help books, and well-meaning articles all point in the same direction, inward. They tell us the problem lies within our own lack of resolve. The narrative is one of personal failing, a deficit of character. Most advice about distraction is behavioral. Try harder, be disciplined, use willpower. This is the gospel of grit, the belief that with enough mental fortitude, we can single-handedly conquer the forces vying for our attention. We are told to build better habits, to resist temptation, to simply choose to focus. The responsibility is placed squarely on the individual. If you are distracted, it is because you are not trying hard enough. If your mind wanders, it is because your discipline is weak. This framework is appealing because it is simple. It suggests a clear path to victory, paved with personal effort and sheer force of will. We download focus apps, set timers, and make resolutions, believing that the next attempt will be the one that finally sticks. We treat the battle for our attention as a series of isolated skirmishes to be won through individual heroics. But digital noise is not solved by motivation. It is solved by structure. To rely solely on willpower is to fundamentally misunderstand the nature of the challenge. We are not fighting a passive enemy. Digital noise is an active, engineered environment. It is the ceaseless torrent of information, algorithmically tailored to provoke a response. It is the architectural design of platforms that prioritizes engagement above all else, above clarity, above well-being, above intention. Motivation is a finite resource, waxing and waning with our mood, our energy levels, and the stresses of the day. Structure, on the other hand, is persistent. Structure is the architecture of our environment. It is the set of rules, systems, and defaults that shape our behavior automatically, without requiring conscious effort or a constant expenditure of will. It is about changing the environment, not just our reaction to it. It is about redesigning the systems we inhabit so that focus becomes the path of least resistance rather than a constant uphill battle. The issue is not what you do occasionally. It is what the system does continuously. An occasional moment of distraction, getting lost in an article, watching an unplanned video, is a normal part of being human. These are minor individual choices. The real issue is the relentless, systemic pressure designed to produce these moments at scale every second of every day. The system is the vast, interconnected network of technologies and business models known as the attention economy. Its core function is to capture, hold, and monetize human focus. It employs armies of engineers, data scientists, and behavioral psychologists to design interfaces that are irresistibly compelling. Variable reward schedules, social validation loops, and manufactured urgency are not accidental features. They are the foundational mechanics of the machine. This system does not rest. It does not have moments of weakness. It operates continuously, optimizing itself to become more effective at its task. Pitting our finite, fluctuating willpower against a trillion-dollar infrastructure of continuous engineered distraction is not a fair fight. It is a design problem, and the solution, therefore, must also be one of design. It requires us to look beyond our own perceived failings and begin to consciously architect the structures, both digital and physical, that will protect our most valuable resource, our attention. A signal-based environment trains the brain to behave like a switchboard. Input arrives, attention moves, context changes, nothing completes. Over time, thinking becomes fragmented, not weak, fragmented. Thoughts no longer develop in full lines, they break. This is not a personality trait, it is an operating mode. The only way out is design, not more effort, better filters. Filters prevent unnecessary decisions from reaching the mind. Digital noise mirrors physical clutter. In a cluttered room, everything demands evaluation. Movement requires negotiation. In a cluttered mind, everything demands evaluation. Thinking requires negotiation. Unfinished messages, saved links, open tabs, ideas kept for later. This is not productivity, it is cognitive hoarding. Not because information is loved, but because closure is feared. Closure feels like loss, and modern systems sell options as safety. So you store, you keep, you postpone. Later becomes a graveyard of unfinished decisions. Cognitive load is not being busy, it is being forced to evaluate everything. Every notification triggers judgment. Is this urgent? Is this relevant? Should I respond? Should I save it? This constant triage drains strategic capacity. People are not tired from effort, they are tired from evaluation. Without continuity, nothing compounds, only motion. The real question is not how to focus more, it is what is allowed to reach you. Decluttering is not tidying, it is filtering. It is deciding what deserves access to your attention. When everything is equal, everything becomes noise. Strategic filters move decisions upstream. Instead of deciding 50 times per day, you design a rule that decides once. Filters protect the mind from negotiation, timing, identity, outcome, cost. Not everything arrives now. Not everything matches who you are building. Not every signal leads to an outcome. Not every input is worth its cost. When these gates exist, the mind stops being public space and becomes workspace again. Digital noise is sustained by open loops, unread messages, unfinished tasks, postponed decisions. Open loops remain mentally active. They create background tension. Compression is the act of closing loops deliberately, not by doing everything, but by deciding what ends. Closed loops are quiet, they return space to the system, and space is what allows uninterrupted cognitive flow. The solution is not more information, it is fewer entry points. An entrepreneur operates inside noise, A businessman designs conditions where noise cannot enter. The difference is not talent, it is architecture. Mental decluttering builds that architecture. So attention no longer defends itself. So thinking remains intact long enough to matter. Uninterrupted cognitive flow is not constant focus, it is continuity. Digital noise keeps decisions open. Strategic filters close what does not matter. And slowly, the mind stops scanning, stops negotiating, stops asking unnecessary questions. It becomes quiet enough to build. Held in silence to allow resonance.